Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we're going to be learning about how we can get outputs out of functions in C++. And we're going to use this to vastly simplify our code and to start implementing some of that pseudocode we've written. Let's dive in. So before we try to understand return values from functions, let's do a brief detour and understand two concepts here, add two more concepts to our glossary. So the first one is the expression. An expression is a fragment of code that produces a value. And there's the statement, which is a fragment of code that is an action to be performed. Now, these two actually have a relationship in that an expression almost always is a statement, in that to calculate the value of a fragment of code, it needs to be an action to be performed. But the same isn't necessarily true the other way around. A statement isn't always going to give you a value. So let's have a look at some examples of expressions and some things that are not from the code that we've already written. So when we type myVector into C++, this is an expression because it has the value of whatever is stored inside the myVector variable. Same's true for local vector. And in fact, if you have local vector plus .z, that itself is an expression. And local vector .z plus 100, that itself is an expression too, because the local vector .z gave you the value inside of the z member, and when you add 100, that gives you a new value which has the addition of 100. So these are all expressions. However, something that is not an expression is when we declared our local vector. When we said f vector local vector equals my vector and put a semicolon at the end of the line, we can't use that to get a value. There's no value there. It's just telling C++ that here's an action for you to perform. I want you to create a new local vector. So that is not an expression. However, something that is an expression is getActorLocation. It's a function that we are calling because there's parentheses on the end here. We actually don't have any arguments here. This is an empty list of arguments, but it is calling something. And because this function has a return value, the actual piece of code here is an expression that takes on the value of whatever's returned from the function. And this is essentially the same as the output pins that we have previously seen in Blueprint. Except unlike with Blueprint, you can only have one output value from a function. There's just one return value. So that is what we can use over here where we've written our pseudocode that says get current location. That is where we're going to do that. We're going to get the location using our getActorLocation. So let's create a new local variable here. We're going to have a new local variable called f of type f vector. It has to be of type f vector because that is the type returned from getActorLocation. And we're going to call this current location. And we'll set that equal to the result or the expression getActorLocation, and then parentheses, a set of matching parentheses, and then a semicolon to end the line. So if we dissect this line a little bit, we can see that this bit here, the getActorLocation and the parentheses, is the expression. It's getting us the value, which is the current location of the actor. Then we are doing an assignment to the current location, which is also being declared right here. So on this line, this whole line is not an expression. There's no value out of it. It is a statement. And usually you can tell a statement because in C++ it ends in a semicolon. Okay, so this is essentially going to allow us to do away with the myVector and local vectors that we've been using previously, because we should just be able to update our local variable here, this current location that we've got from the location of our actor. So what we're going to do is further down here, we've got a comment that says set the location. So after that comment line, I'm going to do a set actor location using the expression current location, which is just using that variable value, and then put a semicolon at the end of the line to say that this whole thing is a statement. We want it to execute this action, set actor location. And notice that while my comments are indented, I have decided not to indent the code to match, because usually we want our code to be at one level of indentation within the function. Now, what I can do is I can remove all of the code we had previously, everything involving local vector, my vector, set actor location using the local vector. I can remove all of that so that all we've got now is the stuff around our comments. And also I'm going to go over into the header file and clean things up a bit here. We no longer need the my vector. We no longer need the my XU properties. So I'm going to delete these ones as well. Now, obviously, the moving platform CPP doesn't actually do very much, because we get the current actor location, then we set it again, which basically has no effect. So I'd like you to have a go at updating the current location of the moving platform in that tick function. So use the X or Y members as you see fit. Well, X will move you forward, Y will move you to the right. Then you can add to it and assign back into the member, as we've been doing previously to update our moving platform's location. So add 1 or 2, depending on how fast you want the platform to move. And then move the platform to its start location, because now we don't have that member variable to tell it the start location. We're actually using the current location. So wherever you place that platform, that is where the platform is going to start from. And then I'd like you to compile and test your code and see if it's moving as you'd expect. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, welcome back. So we're going to be placing this line of code just underneath the comment that talks about it, add vector to that location. And the reason we're putting it here is because of the order. We want to get the current location, update it, and then set it. We don't want anything out of order to happen there. If we were to update it before we created the variable, well, that variable wouldn't exist. Remember, it's a local variable. It only exists once we create it within this particular call of the function. And if we'd done it after set actor location, again, that modification would just be chucked away when we got to the closing brace in the function. So we're going to set the current location dot x. I'm going to use equal to the current location dot x plus 1, and then put a semicolon on the end of the line. And we're going to go back into Unreal, and we're going to hit the compile button. And as I mentioned, we now need to go and move this moving platform to its starting location. So I'm going to click on our third person character, and I'm going to copy his location by right clicking on the location, hitting copy, then going to our moving platform, right clicking on its location, hitting paste. So that puts the platform right inside our player, which is not actually what we want. So I'm going to move it slightly off to the right of the player, like so. And I can see if it's at the right height. I think I'll make it a little bit lower down, which is one of the benefits of using the current location rather than a location variable, is that I can actually see where this platform is going to be in the world. So now if I go ahead and hit play, then you can see that the platform is moving along nicely in the X direction, and I can still jump on it and be moved along with it. Great stuff. Now we've learned how return values work out of functions. We're really starting to understand a lot of the concepts from blueprints in the C++ world. I'll see you in the next lecture.